Five unbelievable and unsolved historical mysteries. While strange things happen every single day, when you dig into the past, you tend to find some mysteries that stand out above the rest. Digging into history's vault can open some strange doors, like the stories on this list, which are some of the most unusual cases we found. These are 5 unbelievable and unsolved historical mysteries. Before we get into it, today we're doing a collaboration with our good friends over at Alltime Conspiracies. They'll be narrating along with us, and they make some really cool videos that if you like our channel, you'll want to definitely check them out. I'll put a link to them in the description below. Number 5. Kenneth Arnold's Flying Saucers. It was a clear day on June 24, 1947, a perfect one for flying. Private pilot and businessman Kenneth Arnold was up in the air on a business trip heading from Chehalis to Yakima, Washington. Flying at 92,000 feet, it was just a few minutes before 3 p.m. when he started heading toward Yakima. Kenneth had taken a brief detour around Mount Rainier, trying to spot a crashed plane that had supposedly landed on the mountain. Without any luck, though, he headed towards the airport, but on his way he spotted something strange. An intense, bright flashing light that he said glowed like sunlight reflecting on a mirror. Afraid he might be too close to another plane, he checked around and saw another DC-4 to his left, but it was 15 miles away. Then, 30 seconds after seeing the first light, he saw another set of flashes close to the north of Mount Rainier. He thought maybe the reflection was coming from his own windows and tested this theory by rocking his plane back and forth and rolling his windows, but the lights remained. It was then he realized the light was coming from several flying objects nearby. The chain of flying objects approached Mount Rainier and looked dark against the bright snow-capped mountain. Arnold described them as having a convex shape, with at least one of them being a crescent shape. Later estimates of the sizes put the mysterious crafts between 140 to 280 feet wide. He later said the crafts were flying together, slightly weaving from side to side. Sometimes they would flip or maneuver, creating bright, mirror-blinding flashes of light when they caught the sun. With their movements, he later estimated the aircrafts were running at approximately 17,000 miles per hour. If this were true, it would have flown 3 times faster than any known aircraft at the time. At around 4 p.m., Arnold landed at Yakima and immediately told a friend at the airport what had happened. Soon, news of his sighting spread. He also shared his story to several pilot friends and some Army pilots. Curiously, the latter said they were briefed they could possibly see similarly shaped objects in the area when flying. Arnold was interviewed by several reporters, and many found him to be a credible witness. He was a careful observer and provided all the info he could. Later on, he became convinced that maybe what he saw wasn't of human origin, but if it was from the military, then he felt they should disclose the information because people were starting to get scared. Within days of the sighting, reporters began using the terms flying disc and flying saucers for the first time. Other witnesses also came forward saying they saw the same flashing objects close to the mountain. Several more witnesses then came forward during the military investigation on the matter. They all reported similar sightings of fast-moving aircrafts or seeing bright flashes of light. But the pilot of the DC-4 Arnold had seen and used for a size comparison while he was in the air didn't report or notice anything unusual. In total, though, there were 16 different people who said they saw those mysterious crafts flying around Seattle that day. 10 days later, on July 4th, a United Airlines crew spotted 9 disc-shaped objects pacing their plane for close to 15 minutes before mysteriously disappearing. Arnold and Captain Emil Smith from the United Aircraft became friends and shared information about what they saw. Further sightings, and even a photograph was taken of 8 objects above Tulsa, Oklahoma on July 12, 1947. Enlo Gilmore, the photographer who was also a gunnery officer in the Navy, believes it might have been a secret fleet from the military. Using the information from another veteran witness, he triangulated and estimated the crafts were flying around 1,700 miles per hour, the same as Arnold's estimation. It was Kenneth Arnold's report that initially sparked the UFO phenomenon that swept over the U.S. at that time. Arnold's story got pushed aside in the history books a bit when the Roswell UFO incident happened a few days later in New Mexico, on July 8, 1947. Today, no one knows for sure whether what everyone saw was something from the military or more than likely something from out of this world.
Number 4. The Ark of the Covenant. As described in the Bible, the Ark of the Covenant is said to be a gilded case built 3,000 years ago and used to house the stone tablets of the Ten Commandments. Aside from the tablets, it's also said to contain a jar of manna, Aaron's rod, as well as the first Torah scrolls. In the Bible, the design for the Ark was said to have been given by God to Moses on Mount Sinai. The Ark accompanied the Israelites as they wandered for 40 years through the desert and was tied to several miracles. 2 prominent miracles involving the Ark happened during the crossing of the River Jordan. It's said that the moment it passed through, the river immediately stopped flowing. Another miracle then happened during the siege of Jericho. Prior to the raid, the Ark was marched around the walls of the city for a week. On the 7th day, as the trumpets blew, the walls came tumbling down and the city was captured. For years after, the Israelites held on to the Ark, and it was recorded to be stored at the Temple of Jerusalem. But when the Babylonian Empire captured the Israelites, the whereabouts of the artifact became a mystery. Many proposed the Ark was destroyed or even hidden on purpose. But what exactly was the Ark of the Covenant? Many have offered theories, and for ancient alien enthusiasts, they believe it could be a form of weapon that's literally from out of this world. There are also those who point out that maybe, instead of a weapon, it was a different form of technology, a manna-making machine. Manna served as the food and sustenance for the Israelites during their 40 years of wandering. Although it wasn't explicitly stated if the Ark was the same manna machine or at least housed it, there are those who believe it's one and the same. Today, the whereabouts of the Covenant can only be speculated. Many say it's still hidden somewhere, and one such place that lays claim to having it in their possession is Axum in Ethiopia. A small, unguarded temple in Axum is said to hold this sacred object. The priests guarding it say the Ark is real, but whether this is the actual Ark from Israel remains to be seen. No one but the priests are allowed to see or approach it. Researchers say it is possible the Ark was safeguarded and taken from the temple before the siege. The fact that there's a Jewish civilization in Ethiopia is also a strong indicator of this theory. One other possibility, according to historians, is that the Ark was hidden in a secret chamber at the first temple before the Babylonians got to it. The site of the first temple is currently where the Dome of the Rock is located, so investigating this theory isn't possible since no digging is allowed on the site. One other idea pursued is that the Ark ended up travelling to England, smuggled out of West Bank by none other than the Knights Templar. Then, when the Templars were hunted down, the Ark made its way to Scotland and settled in Rosslyn Chapel, where it's said to now reside. Whatever the truth may be, there's no denying the solution to the mystery of the Ark of the Covenant is as elusive today as it was thousands of years ago.
Number 3. Devil's Footprints. For some, the devil is a creature of lore and myth, but for others, he's as real as can be. In fact, some point to a particular set of incidents that may prove the devil may actually walk among us. The first, or what are now dubbed as the Devil's Footprints, were seen in a remote and barren island in the middle of the Indian Ocean. A cluster of islands called the Kerguelen Islands, or Desolation Islands, seemed devoid of any land-dwelling creature because it was constantly hounded by freezing winds and cold. In 1840, the tiny group of islands were visited by explorer James Ross and his crew while they were on their way to Antarctica. To their surprise, this place wasn't as barren and desolate as they once thought. In the snow, the explorers caught sight of a set of strange hoof prints that laid undisturbed. They first thought it was a pony or a donkey cut loose by previous ships passing by, but upon closer inspection, it didn't look like any animal track they had actually ever seen. They noted the tracks were a single print that stretched for miles across the snowy landscape. They could tell that whatever made them was bipedal, but with hooves. The prints measured 3 inches in length and 2.5 inches wide. They tracked them as far as they could until they reached a rocky area without any snow and couldn't find the prints anymore. After this sighting, another set of footprints were seen that same year in Scotland after a heavy snowfall. The tracks were thought to be made by an animal because it resembled that of a young horse, but of a bigger size, unlike any seen before. Curiously, the tracks ran for at least 12 miles, yet no one had seen the animal or the creature that made them. Fast forward 15 years to Devon, England on February 8th and 9th of 1855, and the same curious footprints were spotted again. This time they were again small, around 4 inches by 3 inches. They were done in a single file at about 6 to 8 inches apart from each other and printed clearly in the snow. The curious hoof-like footprints ran for over 100 miles, crossing rivers, houses, gardens, and haystacks. As long as there was snow, the footprints were present. The curious thing was that the footprints showed up even inside areas surrounded by high walls like courtyards and gardens, as well as in open fields. Unlike the first sighting of the prints, this set wasn't singular and didn't have a single direction. Some of them led to the doors of some homes, and others went into the woods. The people in the homes didn't feel or hear anything unusual the night before or had seen any creature. Theories about how these devil's footprints came about have also been discussed. The most likely is that it was hoaxed, but it's hard to explain the footprints in desolate landscapes and why any hoaxer would go through that much trouble just to do a practical joke. Perhaps it's a mix of both real footprints and a prank, but still, no one knows for sure who or what created them.
Number 2. The Solvay Spaceman. For Jim Templeton, his wife Annie and their daughter Elizabeth, May the 23rd, 1964 seemed like any other day. All three decided to picnic at Borough Marsh in Solway Firth, Cumbria in northern England. For local fireman Jim, the day was almost perfect. They sat down and had Elizabeth in the field wearing her brand new dress. Jim, an amateur photographer, snapped several photos of his smiling daughter on the grass. His wife was right there with them, standing behind him as he took the pictures. The rest of the day, there was nothing strange, according to the family. However, soon after having the images developed, Jim was upset and baffled that the best photo of his daughter was ruined by what looked like to be a spaceman standing behind her. It made no sense to him and his wife because he was sure no one else was there when they were. Soon the photos were published in local newspapers and the story was picked up, and it wasn't long before speculation began circulating about how the mysterious spaceman was lurking. Of course, for ufologists, this was a clear picture of a spaceman. Jim's first reaction was to take the image to the police, but the cops were not sure what to make of it. Afterwards, he took the image to Kodak. They studied it and tried to determine if it had been faked, but said it wasn't tampered with. They also went ahead and offered a reward for anybody who could prove it was faked, but the reward was left unclaimed. Then, shortly afterwards, Jim said he was visited by 2 individuals, men in black, who asked him to take them to the spot where he had taken the photo. There he asked who they were. He was told they didn't have names, just numbers, 9 and 11. Once there, he showed them the area, but told them he didn't see the supposed figure himself except in the image. The men were upset when he told them this, and abruptly left. The strangest thing with the photo of what is now known as the Solway Spaceman was that it was linked to a scrapped Blue Streak missile launch in Woomera, South Australia. The launch happened just days after Templeton took the infamous photo. It was aborted because the technicians said they saw 2 men standing close to the missile right when it was supposed to launch. When the newspapers in Australia picked up Templeton's story of the spaceman, the pilots at Blue Streak were shocked to see the spaceman looked just like the 2 figures they saw close to the missile. For skeptics, they believe the spaceman might have been an image of Templeton's wife, Annie, and that he simply didn't notice she had walked into the shot. Dr. Clark, who spoke with Templeton, suggested it's possible the spaceman was Annie taken from behind. The image was overexposed, so her blue dress looked white, and the helmet was really her bob haircut. Whoever or whatever it was, the image of the Solway Spaceman remains a strange mystery.
Number 1. Facedos Disk. Discovered in 1908 by Italian archaeologist Luigi Pernier, The Facedos Disk is a small circular clay disc that contains about 242 symbols stamped in a circular arrangement. The item was recovered from a Minoan palace at Facedos on the island of Crete. Although at least 2 scholars have questioned the authenticity of the disc, many agree that it is an authentic, a genuine Minoan artifact. They date its creation to be around 1850 to 1600 BC. There are 45 symbols represented on it, and these have been stamped in clay before it was fired. There is also evidence that the symbols were erased and then restamped using the same design or a new one. Currently, there's still no stamp, though, that's been recovered. Aside from the unusual symbols, there are also dashes and slanted lines that seem to have been hand-drawn. In some symbols, the dashes and lines appear, but on others, they're not present, so it's been suggested they're part of the meaning or interpretation. What makes this clay tablet so mysterious is that for a long time, the symbols on it remained undecipherable, although many people have offered a ton of possible interpretations. One problem with decrypting the disk is that there aren't enough examples they can work with. Some scholars speculate the disk may bear a hymn, an almanac, a prayer, or even a curse. Even though the meaning is still being debated, there are those that propose the clay tablet is possibly the earliest example of movable type because of how it was stamped and printed. However, as of this moment, there's still no other similar tablets that have been recovered bearing most or all of the symbols represented on the disc, so it's anyone's guess. Today, the identity and full meaning of the Facedos Disk and its markings continue to remain unanswered. So there were 5 unbelievable and unsolved historical mysteries. The world is filled with mysterious stories. Over time, maybe we'll find out the answers to these, whether they are real or perhaps an elaborate hoax. For now, though, we'll just have to wait for the real answers to come to light. If you liked this video, then please subscribe to our channel because every Wednesday and Saturday we're putting out new videos for you to check out. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.